بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. All praise due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing us to be here this evening. All praise due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for blessing us with everything that we have. Alhamdulillah, thumma alhamdulillah. My name is Yasir. I'm here from Sacramento. I work at Al-Misbah. And born and raised in Sacramento, memorized the Quran, half of it in Folsom, if you're familiar with that area, other half in Sacramento. And then, alhamdulillah, was privileged to go to South Africa and studied a 7-year seminary curriculum, graduated in 2014, and have been basically trying to serve since 2014 as an imam, as a khadim in the community. Alhamdulillah. So, the goal is not to give a lecture where there's, there's a typical lecture where there's Quran and Tafsir and all of that going on. The goal, inshallah ta'ala, is to share some of the things that exist in the community, and I will do my best where it's not revolving around myself, right? I will do my best to share like the communal perspective of what's going on and how we can be more aware of what's really going on in the community in general, so that inshallah ta'ala, whenever we come across a call to action here by MCC or any of our auspicious, amazing organizations that are working here within Northern California, Nisa Home, ICNA Relief, CARE, Mass SSF, anyone that is doing amazing work, right? And that's something that we need to, mashallah, remind ourselves, is that every masjid is our masjid and every organization is our organization. We're all on the same team. We're all working together at our own capacity with limited resources to make this world a better place. Rahima Foundation, Hidayah Foundation, and the list goes on. Right, every single one of these organizations and so many more that I'm not even naming right now, we're all on the same team. So the format, inshallah ta'ala, is going to be, I'm going to share an incident that took place and then what was done in the community to address the challenge that came, or the set of challenges that came with said incident, inshallah. And what are some of the touch points when it comes to an incident between different organizations and masajid, that sometimes you see 5 organizations coming together, sometimes 2, but the point is everyone is, alhamdulillah, on the same team. Bismillah. Thursday night is a program that I would usually conduct, and I usually turn my phone off, airplane mode. And when I turn my phone back on, of course, multiple notifications, a bunch of WhatsApp messages, because personally I like WhatsApp better, I don't know why, but nevertheless. iMessages, WhatsApp, what have you, emails, all kinds of notifications. And I look closely and I see a message from an unknown number. Obviously, the number is not saved in my phone. And this individual has sent me a few pictures and sends me an address. And what I saw in those pictures led me to get on my bike and drive 30 minutes in the evening towards a certain part of Sacramento. Yes, my daily rider is a motorcycle. Okay, don't worry, Now, when I arrive at the house, okay, when I arrive at the house, I walk in and I see this young man with tears in his eyes, just says Assalamu alaikum and has me follow him to a bedroom. When I enter the bedroom, I see a deceased elderly lady. And they had her jaw tied and everything. So, to take a few steps back, that picture that I received was, somehow this brother got my number. I don't know how. Newly arrived refugee, doesn't matter which country you're from, because honestly it doesn't matter. His mother, okay, so I arrive at his house around 10 p.m., if I recall correctly. The picture he sent me was of his deceased mother that had passed away in his apartment. And she had passed away around Dhuhr time that day. So the remains of his mother are laying in the bedroom when I walk in for about 8 hours at least. Why? Number one, this person does not know who to call. He absolutely has no idea who to call to resolve the situation. Number two, he's terrified of the cost of the burial for his mother. So that's an overarching weight upon his shoulders, that how am I gonna afford this? And since he was relatively new in the community, again, he did not know who to call. So I'm in the home, walking into the room. What can you do? We walk out of the room. He basically hugs me and ends up crying on my shoulder for like 15 minutes. Right? It is then when, as y'all know, my colleague, Sister Elena, myself, we then make some phone calls. We get a funeral director to come in, and I don't leave the house until the remains of this brother's mother is picked up and taken to the local cemetery. Now, one thing I noticed when I walked into the house, it was an apartment, is I walked in, and to the right, there was his wife and two daughters, right? His wife and two daughters. And his elderly father was walking around unfazed. And I picked up really quickly that, this brother, like his memory isn't with him, right? Totally unfazed. It didn't register that my wife has passed away. So as I walk out of the house and I'm about to leave, I'm standing in the parking lot with this young man, ended up talking to him for about an hour. Why? Because when I was leaving, helmet in my hand and about to, just roll off, I say, like, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you and your wife sabr jameel. May Allah grant y'all, sabr jameel. This is a difficult time. Don't worry, all of the expenses will be taken care of. The last thing you should worry about is the money. And then he tells me, Brother Yasir, you deserve to know that that woman that you saw inside with two young girls that you have identified as my wife and children is actually not my wife. She's my cousin. And I'm standing there like, awestruck. What do you mean? What's going on? He says, when I first got here, my dad got sick. He told me he had, suffering from dementia. And I was the only one who was able to look after him. No one else in the household was able to basically keep him home. He would walk off, and only I can keep dad home. Because of that, I lost my job. Because of that, I became homeless. I was living with my parents. And I had nowhere to go. He explains that woman is actually my cousin. And those two girls are actually orphans because her husband was martyred back home. And she came here as a single mother, raising two beautiful girls all by herself. Okay. So in my mind, so why was your mother, why was mom? So he continues to explain that when we were young, my mom's sister which was the lady's mother, Khala, right? She had passed away a few decades ago. And my mother, now rahimahullah, looked after her niece back home because she became an orphan a long time ago. So when she found out that the same aunt that looked after me when I was an orphan is now in need of khidmah and service, so she volunteered to bring her auntie in, my mother in, to look after her. So she's a single mother with two kids. Okay, but there's more. He says, Brother Yasir, you also deserve to know that I'm a widower myself. He said, my wife that was pregnant 7-8 months, she became a martyr back home as well because of something that happened. And he points at the car and says that since she's my cousin, I sleep in the car. I basically never walk into the house. My cousin's been looking after mom, and that's my life. Layers of what's going on. You think it's husband and wife and kids, no. She's a widow, he's a widower, and they lost their spouses back home due to violence. He lost his pregnant wife. Her remains get driven to the local cemetery, if you've heard, Eagle's Nest Cemetery. Her remains are there overnight. And then, in fact, it was Sister Elena that gave her the ghusl, that washed her body. And there was actually a janazah of a young man of the community. Young man suddenly passed away. When that family came to the graveyard and they noticed that there's also the remains of an elderly lady, a refugee elderly lady, and they're not able to afford the burial, that family, as a form of charity for their young son, ended up paying for the funeral director charges and the graveyard. So you have this one example of she was laying at home for at least 8 hours until she was driven to the local graveyard. Not too long ago, seems like a few weeks ago, all of these incidents I'm sharing are relatively between Turlock and Yuba City. I'm not going to name specific cities out of respect and dignity of the families. So between Turlock and Yuba City, I get a phone call that, hey Yasir, that part of the community usually reaches out when someone passes away from that refugee community because they're unable to afford the burial costs, etc. For you and I, a few $1,000s may not be a big deal, but for them, it's unbearable. Okay, so what's the naw'iyah? Like, what happened? Oh, it's a couple. Husband and wife both passed away in an accident. Okay, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Okay, so where are the remains? Where does the family wish to get them buried? It's the family's choice what to do. Oh, they want to get buried in Lodi, and the family wishes for you to be involved and to lead the janazah, etc. And of course, we will need some financial assistance for this. Okay, inshallah. Now, as I'm coordinating between the funeral director and the family, I received a copy of the paperwork. Now, what's really heart-wrenching is, okay, we don't have too many young kids. Mashallah, you're old enough. What's really heart-wrenching is publicly, this couple passed away in a car accident. This was public, okay? But what really happened is that the husband takes the wife for a drive and ends up taking her life. And after taking her life, he ends up taking his own life. Murder-suicide. I have to figure out, how do I do the ghusl? Because it was dramatic. So here I am coordinating the washing of the bodies of a couple within the same city, within Nurai, because that's where the graveyard is and that's where they wanted to get buried. So I'm coordinating the ghusl, or the final bath, of the wife, and at the same time I'm coordinating the bath of the husband as well. I'm also at the graveyard, making sure the graves are ready. And 2 graves. I'm used to just burying one person at a time, right? One person at a time. But now there's 2 graves. I end up leading the janazas, and for the first time in my life, we buried a couple at once. Of course, spoke with the kids. They know what happened. I recently lost my father in March. You think that you get over it, but that gaping hole just gets bigger and bigger. But imagine losing both your parents once, and then in this manner. And I'm trying to counsel the young men that we have to keep moving forward. We had to do some fundraising, get the costs covered, and again, the public thinks they passed away in a car accident, but what now you know is that it was a murder-suicide. The thing that really bothers me about suicide is that, which I understand, part of me understands. The thing that really bothers me about suicide is that there's, out of dignity and respect for the family and the loved ones and everyone involved, there's always this cover-up. Right? It's not, of course, like it's the worst time to disclose what happened and what can we do. But from my perspective, is too much, you know. Another example is that there's a 15-year-old, actually two of them, so we'll just share one first. This 14, 15-year-old ends up taking his life in a closet, right? And now you have to deal with the authorities. Was this kid, you know, I'm working with the law enforcement to get the body released. After like 10 days or whatever, you know, they do a thorough investigation. It's not normal, right? And then, again, oh, he passed away in his sleep. Whereas I know what happened. These kind of situations are such that part of me really thinks that we need to have some kind of like town hall, if you may, right? And put this issue in the forefront, that if you're hurting, or if you know someone that's hurting, please don't cover it up. Let's work towards finding solutions for this individual. I was once called into a situation where, and forgive me if this is like really really dark, but this is the stuff that I deal with, right? And this is the stuff, and again, I'm trying my best not to make this revolve around myself, but this is my perspective, okay? And imams in general are dealing with this stuff throughout North America and throughout the world. I was called into a situation where a young lady, 20-something years old, she was a student, again, somewhere between Yuba City and Turlock, where the morning of Eid al-Adha, I remember this, the morning of Eid al-Adha, Dad walks down from upstairs, for whatever reason goes in the garage, and finds his daughter lifeless. We're live, otherwise I would have shared what happened. She took her life the morning of Eid. But that's not the worst part. The worst part was, I then subsequently attended an Eid prayer, and I heard what the Imam was saying. And the words that the Imam was referring to that situation was, to say the least, highly insensitive. Highly insensitive. So insensitive that I believe, I could be biased, but I personally believe if I had not intervened, if I had not run to the family's house immediately after Eid Salah, then there could have been a fight that have broken out in the community. It was really bad, like highly insensitive verbiage that was used by the Imam. Now, of course, I'm not going to confront the Imam, because good luck trying to get, respect, with all due respect, good luck trying to get through to him. What he unfortunately does not understand until today is that because of those words that he uttered, I had to go for about 5 days straight, consecutively, every day, from the day of Eid up to like the 5th or 6th day of Eid, just to talk the family out of doing something that would just divide the community, what have you. The challenges that she was facing, she was suffering from depression, and she was hurting. She was hurting. This one time we get a phone call. In fact, Sister Elena found out. Sister Elena found out that there's a family. Let's change gears because we have, mashallah, younger folks in the room. Sister Elena found out that there's a newly arrived family, husband and wife with 3 kids, and they're living in a tent in a park. Really strange, right? So we intervene, we make contact with the family, and find out that this family, basically it took them a year to travel from their respective home country, and then for them to walk into the border and seek asylum. Again, it doesn't matter which country they came from. The situation was horrible enough because the story goes they were outside of their home country when political turmoil began. They then flee to another country, and then they're not able to return to their home country because of the political turmoil. And what happens? They end up, someone told them that go to Nepal and seek asylum there, inshallah ta'ala, you'll be okay. They arrive in Nepal and they end up getting thrown into jail. They're in jail in Nepal for a few months, 2 to 3 months. So they went to Nepal to seek asylum. They ended up getting in trouble, and now they're in jail. They're stuck between a rock and a hard spot. They can't go anywhere else. They can't seek asylum anywhere else. Okay, what happens? They somehow get in touch with somebody in Brazil. And that group of people in Brazil promises them a better life and says that just come on over and inshallah ta'ala everything will be okay. So from Nepal, they arrive into Brazil. When they arrive in Brazil, the mother she narrated the story with me multiple times already. The mother tells me that for the first few days they were amazing, non-Muslims. Okay, non-Muslims are taking this family in. The first few days they were open, they were receptive, they were amazing, hospitable, and everything in between. But then I begin to notice that my son begins to ask strange questions regarding Islam and regarding a specific religion that group subscribed to or identified as. So as a mother, she intervenes and says, what are y'all teaching my son? What are y'all teaching my kids? Turns into a confrontation. So they say, okay, if you're really pushing back, then you're on your own. So she said, okay, the iman of my children is more important than anything else. So husband and wife and 3 kids leave Brazil on foot. And they walk through the Panama jungle. And she tells me that her younger daughter, they even showed me the pictures, crossing rivers and all of that stuff, and then coming across wild animals and everything. They walked for so long that the toenails of her daughter fell off. They arrive into the States. They have nowhere to go. They somehow get their hands on a tent. And at that time, they were staying in a tent at that park for a few months. If I recall correctly, about 3 months. 3-4 months, this family is staying in a tent at a park. Okay? So, alhamdulillah, what ends up happening is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to take this case on. First thing we do, we take this family obviously out of the tent, put them in a hotel, and then within days we find them an apartment, and then within a day or two we furnish that apartment, and then we end up And that's the barrier. We end up paying for basically their rent for 8 to 10 months, right? We serve this family, applying for asylum and everything, alhamdulillah. But, so far, I've been sharing like all bad news of what's going on, and it got really dark real quick. But to share some, to share some optimism and to share some light is that, alhamdulillah, both husband and wife ended up getting full-time jobs. Alhamdulillah, they got their work authorization. Husband and wife both got full-time jobs. The husband is currently the Al-Misbah warehouse manager. And the wife is an office manager at the Hurley office in Sacramento. So not only is she the office manager, she is conducting cultural orientations in our refugee resettlement program. Can you believe that, Brother Munir? As we became a refugee resettlement agency, alhamdulillah, a few months ago, one of the responsibilities that we have with the federal government is to provide cultural orientation. It's a lengthy process. But now this sister is conducting cultural orientations for other women that have come in as refugees through Al-Misbah. But wait, there's more. Her older daughter graduates high school and has become a dental assistant. And she's working too. MashaAllah, they buy themselves like a car or two, and MashaAllah, like they're doing much better. They're doing much better. Should we pause for Q&A or should I just keep going? Forgive me if if it's too I guess too heavy or something. But my intent is not to spook anybody or to have y'all lose sleep. But this is what's going on, right? Should we take a pause in Q&A or should we just continue? Continue? All right. Okay. Today is Friday. Okay. On Wednesday night, this happened. This is like right out of the oven. Okay. Taza tareen, as they say. Why not, just smile a little bit, right? I'm not exaggerating. This past Wednesday night, I received a phone call at around 7 p.m. that, hey Yasir, I have somebody from the community in my home and he's distraught. He does not know what to do. Okay, what's going on? He says that the father dropped off his 19-year-old daughter at work. Okay? Drops off the 19-year-old at work early in the morning, around 6 a.m. or something. This young lady's older sister shows up at her closing time of her clocking out to pick her sister up, but she's not there. So she asks the manager, hey, where's my sister at? So the manager goes, oh, by the way, your sister, she basically said she's not feeling well. And she basically walked out at 11 a.m. And we don't know where she's at. She just said she's going home, she's feeling under the weather, and she's gone. She runs back. They checked the house, and they found out that this young lady, she had taken all her documentation with her. Her passport, green card, gone. At around 4:20 something p.m., she sent her father one text message in her mother tongue saying, "My beloved father, I'm on my way." She doesn't, of course she doesn't say where. She says, this happened this past Wednesday, okay? "I'm on my way. Just please don't worry about me, and I will explain where am I and why once I arrive at my destination." So what do? I try to help. I'm sitting in my living room, after, days of work. And one thing, alhamdulillah, I'm not complaining, wallahi, is that all praise due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I get to work 7 days a week, about 12 hours a day. It never stops. It never stops. And that's okay, alhamdulillah. This is what I signed up for, and this is what keeps me going. Nevertheless, of course they're trying to call her. Of course they're trying to ping her and find her location and find my app and all of that, but nothing. Yasir, what can we do? What can we do? I said, respected father, my heart goes out to you, but the only thing you could do, and that's off the top of my head, it's not like I'm prepared for this. You have to improvise. I said, the only thing you can really do is contact the police department and submit a missing person request, like a report that a person is missing. So that if because all kinds of ideas are racing her mind. Where can she be? She has the documentation to flee the country. She's not answering her phone. She's unreachable right now. She may be on a flight right now. We don't know. She could be going to a different country. And then, I'm just being transparent. Like, I've worked with domestic violence cases before. We know what's going on. I'm thinking she got kidnapped. I thought she got picked up and she's, she's a victim. So I implore the father to please contact the police department right now and file a missing persons report. That's the only thing you can do. So that if she, if this reaches the proper authorities at the right time, maybe when she's checking in at the counter, if she has not left the country already, at least I'm imagining there's some kind of notification on the screen, or maybe like law enforcement can make contact with her at the airport because she's an adult and say, oh, by the way, there's a missing person report regarding you. How would you like to proceed? He can't force anything to. I said that is like the last line of defense that we have. If she's actually on her own and she's like running away. And there's nothing else we could do. Just make dua, make zikr, make istighfar, like do whatever you can. Turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and let's really hope that she's not a victim right now. Let's hope that she's actually safe. And I told them that I really hate to say this, but right now, the best case scenario is that she has made this decision on her own. Because if she has been tricked or fooled into a situation, then Allah have mercy. Because only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can save her, honestly. Because once you fall into that trap, you can't, I don't even have the words. So the best case scenario is she actually made this decision on her own. Okay. Every few hours, exchanging text messages. Hey brother, any update? No. Any update? No. 19-year-old young woman is gone. Like nowhere to be seen. Where is she? Okay. Last night at around 10 p.m., I'm at someone's residence. I'm at someone's house for another reason, for a different reason. Alhamdulillah, community reason. I'm sitting in his living room and I get a text message from my POC, from my point of contact, that Alhamdulillah, he calls me Sheikh Saab. People call me all kinds of Sheikh Saab, Imam, whatever. But I tell people my ID says Yasir on it. Okay? Khair, nevertheless. Oh, Sheikh Saab, Alhamdulillah, we found her and she's in Iowa. She's in Iowa. What in the Jahannam is she doing in Iowa? Keeping it halal, I'm not using the H word. What the Jahannam is she doing in Iowa? Okay, long story short, she made the decision and she basically somehow ended up in Iowa. Of course, there was somebody else involved. And as I speak, at around 7:44 p.m., her dad, her brother, and a third family member are literally driving to Iowa as I speak to go pick her up. Of course, we explored the flight option. Yes, we know there are planes and the closest airport, and even if you fly into SFO, it's cheaper than Sacramento because y'all got the major airports are here in the Bay Area. Sacramento, we're we're nobody. We just have the state capital there, which I guess we'll talk about in a few minutes, inshallah. But yeah, of course we explored that option. But the only problem was a one-way ticket was $500. So it was economical for three members of the family. They bought some snow chains and they're literally driving as we speak to go pick up their daughter from Iowa, out of all places. Alhamdulillah, at least she didn't flee the country. But again, some serious challenges that are taking place in the community. Now, let's switch gears a little bit. Alhamdulillah, a few years ago, I would say little over 4 years ago, I would say 4 years and like a month or 2 months ago, and I say this to people, and it is pretty unbelievable, but the state legislator, or the state legislature, specifically the California State Assembly, approached this guy that's holding the mic and told him that we want you to be the chaplain for the California State Assembly. I'm not even joking. My response was, I don't want it. I have enough on my plate. It's not going to happen. I turned it down. I didn't, Word goes out that Yasir turned down this position. So a few community members had to sit me down and basically had to tell me that Yasir, is kaam ko karna hai. That Yasir, you have to do this. Okay, all right, let's do this. And then, alhamdulillah, so the point is, I didn't apply for it, I was approached. And let alone being approached, I had no interest whatsoever. If it wasn't for community leaders to sit me down and talk me into it, no, why? Why would I do that? Okay, all right, okay, I'll do it. Okay, you guys got me. So alhamdulillah, history is made where this guy became the first chaplain at any state throughout the United States. So I became the first chaplain for the California State Assembly in the history of, as they say, America. Good question. So to clarify, I was the only dedicated chaplain. So no other religious folks like I'm the chaplain. And what that means is that every time the assembly comes together to start session, I have to be there to start the session with a dua, with a prayer. So in other words, if Yasir ain't there, they're not doing business. Okay, so I got sworn in for a 2-year term. Okay, 2-year term, I got sworn in. Okay, guys, you guys, What was really, to share something personal, it was really, really surprising that they approached this guy. And then out of everybody, this guy. I'm not, you know, good luck finding me on social media. You know, I prefer living under a rock. You know, introverted. You know, just mind my own business. Reciprocate. I'll talk when you talk to me. You know, there's nothing. Why? I have no idea. But hey, you know, just going for the ride. Now, so I walk in. I have to admit, it is, you know, little overwhelming for the first few sessions. Like, wow, you know. But okay, so let's get to the meat and potatoes now. All of this was just an appetizer. Okay. Now, I'm observing what's really going on. So I notice that there's this list of all of these caucuses that exist. Okay? All of these different caucuses exist in the State Assembly. And every time there's an issue or a bill to either stand against or stand behind, of course, they wave their caucus flag either in support or in opposition of a bill, and also, obviously, a resolution. Okay? So with that backdrop, I remember the first Ramadan, I was there. So now, you know, I'm observing, okay, so what's going on? So remember, let's put it this way. I believe the only group of Californians that is not being represented via a caucus is Muslims. You have caucuses based on race, based on religion, and the list goes on. I'm not going to name them because, you know, we're going to run out of time. So I witness, okay, I see on the docket Ramadan resolution, but I'm looking around, there ain't no Muslims in the State Assembly, right? There's no elected assembly members. So how is this going to play out? We'll pause for that.
Imam Mohammad Rasulullah. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
اللهم رب هذه. I'm going to try to land this plane within 5 minutes and then break for Isha, inshallah ta'ala, and then see how we could have like a take two after Isha, inshallah ta'ala, per schedule. So, Ramadan comes around, I see on the docket, Ramadan resolution, how is this going to play out? And I'm observing all of this. I am not able to put together nor present the resolution because I'm not an elected member. I'm a non-elected member. Okay? So what happens? Our good folks at CARE are working with, at that time, Assembly member from San Diego, Rios. Okay? They work with her, put together this resolution, and then she is the one who presents the Ramadan resolution, and then subsequently the annual iftar that takes place at the state capitol, again, mashallah, brought to you by CARE, okay, takes place. Why am I sharing this? For every other denomination that exists in California, whether it's religious, ethnic, what have you, they have somebody at the state assembly that is speaking out for them. Why is it, and nothing against the assembly member, right? Like, mashallah, like she's open-minded enough to author it, and then you have a few co-authors, and they pass it, right? Kudos to them for that, right? But what really bothered me is, why don't we have Muslims in the assembly that are, again, authoring, presenting, and then passing the resolution on behalf of the Muslim community? So this happened for 2 Ramadans. And I'm witnessing, I'm seeing all of this. So we would get basically sworn in. There's a 2-year term, as you know, for the State Assembly. So the first 2 years, okay, I did my best. At the beginning of every session, I'm there making the dua. And then we continue. The first term ends, and then I'm saying goodbye, good working with y'all, and okay, see y'all later. I get called in for a meeting a few weeks later that, oh, Yasir, we were thinking if you would be interested to be the chaplain for the next session as well. My response, I'm not exaggerating, is okay, if y'all still want me there, I'll be there. Like if you want me to be around, I'll be there. And then alhamdulillah, I got sworn in again for 2 years again. That is when it wasn't until the second term that I was there, is when a Muslim assembly member, last name Isaili, got sworn in. And for the first time in the history of California, you had a Muslim assembly member that authored, presented, and got that Ramadan resolution passed. And then at the same time, that year, 2022, in fact, was the year that the first Muslim assembly member got elected on the assembly side, Assembly Member Isaili, and then the first Muslim senator got elected, Aisha Wahab, on the Senate side. So that was, to be honest, okay, we got some Muslims here now, on the Senate and on the assembly side. Alhamdulillah, right? I've seen a lot in the assembly. I've seen city council members run for assembly member positions. I've seen assembly member positions get sworn in as Attorney General and the Secretary of State. In fact, this may come off as a flex, but it's the absolute truth. The current Attorney General, Banta, I know him as Assembly Member Banta. I know him personally. Oh yeah, Assembly Member. Now today he's Attorney General Banta. Similarly with Dr. Shirley Weber, who's the Secretary of State for the state of California. Similarly, I know her as Assembly Member Shirley Weber. I was present when both of them, of course at their own time, they got voted on and they got sworn in to take that position of Attorney General for the state of California and also the Secretary of State of the state of California. So to make a bold statement, and we're going to go for Isha, because it's like 4 minutes to go, is, may Allah forgive me if I'm going beyond here or if I'm going overboard, but for the 4 years I was there at the assembly, I don't believe any other Muslim had the vantage point or the perspective that I did of the entire state of California. Yes, you have Muslims that are working in different offices, even the governor's office. I know some people personally that work there. But what I saw, the laws that I saw getting passed, there was no one else for those 4 years that had that perspective that I did. And then I've also seen assembly members become sheriffs. Like Assembly Member Cooper became the sheriff for the Sacramento County Sheriff's Department. Assembly Member Kevin McCarty became the mayor for the city of Sacramento. Again, I know these people personally. And then I also know of assembly members that ended up going to Capitol Hill. They ran for DC from California and they moved there. So I'm seeing all of this progression. I know people that yesterday were city council members and then they became county supervisors and now they're assembly members. They're, and the reason why I'm sharing all of this is because is like where are we at? Where are we at? Where are we? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala use us only for what is good. Inshallah ta'ala, after Isha, we'll share some hospital chaplaincy incidents, county jails. I served at San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office and Sacramento County Sheriff's Office. I have stories to tell. Working on a deal with the Attorney General or the DA of San Joaquin County regarding a young man to minimize his sentence, to bring down his felonies to misdemeanors so that he could have his life back, and everything in between. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. I understand that we are relatively new in the States. Okay? Yes, we know that Muslims arrived here a very, very long time ago, especially if you read the book, it's called They Came Before Columbus, right? So Islam arrived here on this land a long time ago. But the context is, if you look at how Islam has grown from the 70s, 80s, 90s, right? I'm a 90s kid. I showed up in God's green earth in '89. So I grew up riding bikes, climbing trees, playing football on the street. This is pre-internet era, okay? So in that context, we are relatively new. And when we are relatively new, it's human to go through a phase where, I like to call it, where we go through a phase of survival mode. Survival mode. Because, let's face it, this is just my theory, okay? I didn't go to school for this, I didn't study sociology. This is just my humble perspective, fly in the wall perspective, okay? First generation is survival in so many ways. However, generations that continue after the first generation, they don't need to be in survival mode anymore. I remember my father, rahimahullah, just lost him this past March. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive him and all of the marhumin that have left this world with Iman. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. One thing to share personal is that one of the things that brings closure is that he literally said the kalima and Allah, before passing away. So and then we saw him in a dream a few times, alhamdulillah, teaching little kids how to, recite salah and all of that. So, we have hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with such a time for us to leave this world as well, so that we're also remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. I remember as young Yasir, my father, rahimahullah, blue collar job, operated a forklift, and then delivering pizza. He made with the best he made what we had, doing the best he can. I don't need to do that anymore. I don't need to work double jobs, if that makes sense. Right? Relatively speaking, we're able to, rent a little place, what have you. Now, the reason why I mentioned that is because first generation Muslims, we were surviving, right? Regardless of, some of us are here, maybe third, fourth generation, but nevertheless. We don't usually think about being proactive. And that's one of the things that really that one of the things that really bothered me when I was at the state for 4 years is we as Muslims in general, and please forgive me if the following comes off as abrasive or comes off as like, hey Yasir, what are you talking about? But again, from my simpleton perspective, we as Muslims have not, we're still stuck in the phase of being reactive. And we have not become proactive enough. Yes, there are efforts, there are noble efforts of civic engagement and all of that, and mashallah, like that's good. Given the fact that it does not compromise our deen. That's a different topic for another day. Right? We cannot engage at the expense of our deen. Then you're just working backwards. Again, a topic for a different day. But how many times I remember this one time a scholar messaged me where he wanted to either be a part of a petition to basically get as many Muslims to sign a petition to not allow so-and-so bill to get passed in the assembly. Right? But the reality was, and I'm sitting on the assembly floor shaking my head, that too little too late. The fact that this bill has made it to the floor, it's already done. They're just going to vote on it. It's just a formality now. The conversations have already taken place. Whatever handshakes or whatever politics at play, it's already done. And of course, like good luck, like please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we shouldn't sign petitions, we should not have a voice. But what I'm saying is instead of reacting literally on the day of, okay, fine, 3-4 days before a bill is signed, a bill is voted on an assembly floor, 3 days or 5 days prior to that, it's not going to make a difference. I hate to say it, but that's just the honest truth. And that is my definition of being reactive. We've seen okay, okay. And what really bothers me is that part of it, partially, we are reactive, okay? But then I'm sitting there with my forehead in my hand, right? I can't believe that some of these bills are getting passed. But then we don't even know that these bills are being passed. We're not even informed. So when that sheikh reached out to me that, hey Yasir, I know you're in the state assembly. I remember receiving that message while I was on the assembly floor. So from his perspective, hey Yasir, let's do something about this. But I hate to say, I hate to say it, Sheikh, but it's too little, too late. But then on the flip side, what happens is there are other bills that have passed us by, and we don't even know that they have been enacted into law. Of course, I could unpack this by giving examples, and so many of these issues affect our day-to-day life, right? And I'm sitting there like, Ya Allah, I wish I had some kind of, not wish, but I wish I was able to, if I had a megaphone, and every Muslim was able to hear my voice throughout the state of California, that Yasir is trying to tell y'all that this bill, because I'm hearing all the debates, right? On both sides of the aisle. Sometimes a bill is presented from the majority party, and sometimes from the minority party. And they're being debated, and I'm sitting there watching this. Some debates are going on for a long time. And then at the same time, there are bills that I anticipate that, okay, they're gonna, we're gonna have like a batting innings, you know what I mean? That they're gonna, but no, it gets presented, no one, okay, and then okay, vote on it, and then you see all all the votes coming on that LED board in the assembly. What I'm saying is we need to become proactive. That's all I'm saying. And I have a theory of how we could do that, but that's again my basic, simpleton perspective from the California State Assembly. Now, in a previous life, I also served as a chaplain at a hospital. At that hospital, I was the first chaplain that was Muslim. So I would visit. I had a habit of visiting every Thursday. It was like a routine. There's no like sunnah, there's no like nothing. But for me, it just worked every Thursday. And one of the cases that, okay, so what my Thursday looked like is that I would arrive, I would pick up my list, and then one wing of the hospital, just imagine this, okay? It's like so amazing. It's like why aren't more people doing this? I'm plugging this in. Like, please become chaplains in a local hospital. You don't have to be a sheikh. By you walking in and being that source of support for someone, you don't need to be a scholar or sheikh for that. You're just providing support. So I have a list, and I'm visiting, the newborns ward, and I'm just reciting adhan and iqamas in the ears of like all these babies, right? That were just born just relatively recently. Sometimes I get called in, like, hey Yasir, can you come in? And then especially during COVID, I was like one of the only staff members, that was able to go in and recite the adhan and iqama in these, because people were still coming into this dunya. You know what I mean? This one time I remember I had the hospital badge. I walk into the room, and there's an elderly man, and he's laying there all by himself. And he sees me, and I could speak his language. So I'm communicating with him in his language, in his mother tongue, and he's asking me, and he's looking at me, and looking at my badge, and then looking at me, and then he's trying to put the two together. It's like you, hospital badge? I'm like, yes, sir, I'm with the hospital, and I'm here to see how you're doing. So he's like, but you're the imam of the local masjid. I'm like, yes, sir, I am. He burst out crying. He said, you, the imam, came to see me? He's like, I have no family. I'm laying here all by myself. And he's like weeping in his bed. He couldn't believe it. That visitation has touched me, of course, and I'm sharing it here in Pleasanton, Sharif, as some people would say, right? Another example is I get called in because as a chaplain, you're also communicating between the family and the hospital staff, right? So this one incident took place where I get called in from the hospital that, hey Yasir, we have a stressful situation. Can you please come in and see if you're able to diffuse or like de-escalate or whatever? I'm like, okay, I'll break a leg. Let's see how this goes. Okay. I walk in, the doctor calls me to the side and says that, hey, based on all of these things, mom is not going to be with them for any much longer. I'm advising them to stop treatment, take mom home, and allow her to spend the last few moments with her family, with her loved ones, with dignity and respect. But the family wasn't buying it. I walk over to the other side, I speak their language, alhamdulillah, and of course they're frustrated. They're saying, how can we how can we do this to our mother? We're gonna continue treatment. Like, we can't. It was their decision, and it was their right to do so. So the hospital staff was saying no, take her home, and the family was standing its ground like, no, we wish to continue treatment for mom, and that was the family's decision. I'm like, all right, like, hey guys, I told you I'm gonna give it a try. I walked away. I remember I walk basically to the wall, talk to the hospital staff, 5-10 minutes, and then I walked basically I'm walking back and forth both parties and trying to defuse the situation. And my role My role is not to tell anybody what to do. My role is simply, as a chaplain, to support and allow the family to decide. So the family decides to keep mom there. She was in ICU. She wasn't going to make it. Guess what? The following Thursday, I have that sheet and I see that name and I recognize that name. So, I would go and recite adhan and iqamah first, and like these little innocent, cute little babies, mashallah, right? And then walk over to the adult side, start from the top floor and visit all the Muslims from the top floor to the bottom. And I see the same, oh, this is the name of that woman that was. And then I walk in, her daughter is sitting there with mom, and she's out of ICU, and she's recovering. She's eating and drinking, and everything is fine. She's, alhamdulillah, everything is fine. Right? So, from what I've seen, the family was right. Only Allah knows, right? Only Allah knows when it's time for us to leave this world. But, the sons were like, the 2-3 sons were there, they're like, no way. No way, Jose. Like, we're not going to do that to our mom. But mashallah, came out of ICU, recovered, and then discharged, and mashallah, she was fine. One thing I do want to share is that I believe, and this is my personal opinion, I'm not a mufti, so I'm not passing a fatwa, okay? So just want to share that disclaimer. I believe personally that having representation at your local hospitals as a chaplain is fard kifaya. What I'm implying is that even if one righteous soul is doing it on behalf of the entire Muslim community, then the entire Muslim community is absolved of that responsibility. But if, hasha wa kalla, if there is not even a volunteer chaplain at your local hospitals within, I would say, a 10 or 15 mile radius, then Allah, may Allah forgive me if I'm overstepping here, but think about all those people that pass away without seeing a Muslim again, or I'm not trying to guilt trip y'all, but this is this harsh reality. Let's switch gears. Alhamdulillah, I also served as a chaplain at the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office. One incident I would like to share is Sacramento County has 2 facilities, one in Elk Grove, one in Sacramento downtown. So, and by the way, just to drive this point home, that having representation at the local hospitals and also at the local county jails, keyword, county jails, I believe is fard kifaya. Even if one person is doing it, it absolves everyone else. And if no one's doing it, then Houston, we have a problem. I'm just saying this. And the reason why I say this is because there was a point in time, and alhamdulillah, I'm not tooting my horn, none of that. I'm just being objective here. There was a point in time that I was the only one Muslim chaplain serving 2 county jails, 2 counties. I was the only Muslim chaplain, again, volunteer, I'm not getting money for this. It's, just lillah fillah, it's all fi sabilillah. At the hospital, it's all fi sabilillah as well. There's no incentive, it's thankless work. That's just the way it is, right? So I was one Muslim chaplain for San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office and Sacramento County Sheriff's Office. And yes, and what that means is that even to make one visitation in San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office, I would have to drive at least 45 to 55 minutes one way, meet that inmate, and then drive all the way back. So I would drive more, it would take me longer to commute than the visitation itself. Why? Where are we at? So please, after this program, reach out to your local hospitals and find out, is there a chaplain is there a Muslim chaplain, even on a volunteer basis at your local hospital? If there is, mashallah, go and buy them some chocolate or something. Hey man, you're holding it down, or a whole sister, like you're holding it down for the rest of us. If not, then this is something that, like, I'm not volunteering y'all, but MCC should step, should step into this and create like a group. Like, mashallah, you have all these groups already. So why not, like, hey, like, let's create a volunteer group of looking after, and the ajr, the reward, we know of this. Like, this is now turning into like a traditional talk. Visiting the patient, visiting someone who is sick, we know the virtue. You earn the reward of 70,000 angels making dua for you. So what I would do, this may sound strange, but whenever I would run into some kind of challenge in my life, I would go to the hospital and make an extra visit. Like, like having angels make dua for me. Like 70,000 angels making dua for me, and then this sinful existence, okay, let's have the angels make dua. Just be honest. It's true, it happens, okay? So, again, reach out to your local county sheriff's office. Every county has a county jail. And chances are, county jails don't hire chaplains. It requires volunteers to do so. So, reach out to your local county jail. If there is someone who's Muslim and is regularly conducting visits, then mashallah. If not, honestly, astaghfirullah. Why? Because, based on my experience, people are, you have two types of people in the county jails. You either have Muslims, yes, Muslims are in the county jail. And I've seen men and women from every ethnicity and background there. It doesn't discriminate. I've seen it all. So, you'll be surprised. In fact, in a previous life, when I was a chaplain at the juvie hall, I would go and visit underage offenders and try to coach them out of making bad decisions in their lives. So you have Muslims that are there, that are seeking guidance and want to make tawbah and turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you also have people that want to accept Islam as well. I can't tell you how many shahadas I've given in the county jails. I'm sharing this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One scenario, one incident that really comes to mind is that this happened at the Al Grove facility in Sacramento County Sheriff's Office, where the way it would work, every county jail is different, but you get a kite, and the kite is basically a request from the inmate to have the imam see them. Okay, so I go in, pick up my file. I have like a stack of kites, and I visit inmates. I go to a specific wing, and I conduct my visitation. Okay, how do I pray? Do I need a prayer rug? No, just use a towel. Objectively, you don't need a prayer rug to pray. A towel is fine. You just need a clean space. Okay, here's a prayer table. Here's the time to fast in Ramadan. I would even have to go in and inspect the kitchens to ensure that the meals are actually halal for the inmates for the month of Ramadan, etc. Like there's a lot to this. Making sure there's no cross-contamination between pork and everything else, and everything in between. So I conduct my visitation. I'm walking past this wing, and I see this young man who's banging on the door and is trying to get my attention. So I'm walking out of the wing, and I go up to the warden, and I'm like, yo man, you and I both see that guy knocking on that door. So would you be okay to buzz him out for like 5 minutes? He's like, yeah, it's okay. Because protocol is you're only able to see the imam if you've requested for the imam. That's the protocol. But I asked the warden, I'm like, hey, you go there often, you get to know each other. Like, okay, Yasir, good people, hopefully, you know what I mean? So he buzzes him out. He buzzes this inmate out. The inmate runs out and says, say the Shahada for me. I want to accept Islam. Say the Shahada for me. I've been waiting for an Imam. I'm like, okay, hold your horsey. There was a bench. I'm like, let's sit down. Did you study Islam? Did you read the Quran? Do you know what Islam is? Do you understand that by you accepting Islam, you are moving on or moving away from your previous beliefs that you had, irregardless of what they were, or even you didn't have in the first place? Everyone is unique. Yeah, I know everything. I read the Quran, I was introduced to it, not too long ago. I just wanted someone to come and say the kalima for me to accept Islam. I still use that example of when a person desires the truth, when a person desires to accept Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala literally opens the doors of their prison cells for them and their jail doors for them to accept Islam. And this is one of the common things that I've seen when I studied a few dozen, maybe like around 100 stories. Like during my studying days, I was a student. When I was in South Africa, I studied, I read a lot of stories of different people accepting Islam. And one thing that I found that was common between everybody is that regardless of where they came from, regardless of which language they spoke, what have you, they always came across a point where they were at a point where they said that, oh, the one true God, guide me towards you. And it is as if the moment, I'm not exaggerating, it is as if the moment they would call out to Allah, wherever their journey would bring them, they would call out, oh, the one and only God, guide me towards you. It is as if instantly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, opens the doors for them and they accept Islam. If you learn about the story of Imam Yusuf Estes, right? Read his story. I remember hearing his story on the radio in South Africa. Same thing. How he accepted Islam. He was a pastor, priest, what have you, came from a family of, religious folks, and the rest is history. So again, we have to be present in our local hospitals. We have to be present in our local county jails. And then I remember this one time, another incident is a young man ended up, a good kid, parents raised them right, but hey, slipped up, was at the wrong place at the wrong time. In fact, his father, this young man came from such a family that his father led Taraweeh prayers in that specific city for years. So in other words, the Imam Sahib's son, bad company, bad choices, whatever it is now in an orange jumper with his lihya. Can you imagine that? A young man with the full sunnah beard is in the county jail and is being charged with multiple felonies. So what do you do? Working with the dad reaches out. In fact, it was the father that reached out to me and said, Yasir, I know you're involved with the sheriff's office. Can you please make it, can you do something? I said, Allah is the one that does, but hey, let's try. So what happened? I go in because as a chaplain, I had clearance to go on the secure side. So I would be able to visit inmates like how we're able to see each other, not behind the glass. So I was able to go visit this young man, ask him the questions that needed to be asked. And then what I did, alhamdulillah, I reached out to the local DA, the county attorney general. I had a meeting with her. And I basically came up with a curated or like a specialized plan for this young man that if I'll sign off on this commitment of providing this young man with the rehab that he needs. But for you to, bring down the felonies from felonies to misdemeanors. And alhamdulillah, after a few weeks of back and forth, alhamdulillah, she agreed. And mashallah, his charges were dropped from felonies down to misdemeanors. And mashallah, now, he's married, he has kids, and he's moved on in life, alhamdulillah. Another example of a minor. A minor, same thing, right? Basically gets in trouble and is now getting charged as an adult with multiple felonies. Under 18, young man. Okay? Again, his dad reaches out. Hey Yasir, can you make it happen? I'm like, Allah is the one that makes it happen, but hey, Yasir will break a leg. Let's see what happens. Same thing. Reach out to the right people. Reach out to the assembly member. Hey, can you make something happen? Through the assembly member, spoke to the DA, and alhamdulillah, brought him down. Brought him down, alhamdulillah. It's 8:55, 8:56 already. There's a lot more to share. There's a lot more to share. But what's the point? The point is, there's a lot going on. And as I said in the beginning, please, whenever you come across any amazing organization that's doing amazing work locally, with Rahima Foundation, Hidayah Foundation, CARE, Nisa Homes. You know how many referrals I sent to Nisa Homes here from Sacramento? This is before women's shelters were even thought about in Sacramento. I'm just being honest. I didn't even share domestic violence cases. Can you imagine this Hispanic lady? She accepts Islam, and because of her accepting Islam, her family kicks her out because of her iman, and she remained steadfast. She was homeless. What happens? Allah allowed us to get her a little studio, and she was able to maintain her iman. One time around midnight, we got a phone call of two sisters that were married to two brothers. Domestic violence situation. Both sisters were getting abused, and they both got basically dropped off at the local masjid. So the masjid calls us and says, Yasir, here are two sisters with their children. They said, this is a DV case. They literally have nowhere to go. Can y'all make something happen? 2 rakahs of salah. Okay, let's make it happen. We put them in a hotel. We put them in one hotel. I'm just being transparent. The hotel did not like us because two families in like one suite, kids are kids. So then we had to shift them to another hotel and get them two different suites. And then how many domestic violence victims we had to come across where they had literally nowhere to go, put them in a hotel, and then, as soon as possible, get them an apartment, furnish it, give them the key, Assalamu alaikum. So there's a lot more. What's the point? The point is, there's a lot going on. Every time we come across any of our amazing organizations, starting from MCC with the food pantry, and all of these amazing organizations, everyone's doing an amazing job. We're all doing the best we can with the limited resources that we have. So the next time we come across an opportunity to donate, an opportunity to volunteer, please do so, because we're all on the same team. Remember what I mentioned in the beginning? Every masjid is our masjid. Every organization is our organization. We as a Muslim community cannot afford to have this type of narrative of, oh, this organization is those people or these people. No, we're one ummah. We can't afford that. We cannot allow our nafs and shaitan and politics or whatever it is. We can't, it would be so horrible. It would be so horrible if I allowed those kind of things to get in between me and like standing side by side with an amazing organization. No. Everyone is doing an amazing job with the limited resources, mental health, domestic violence, huh? Uh, you know, civil rights, huh? Civil justice, food pantry, refugee resettlement, and the list goes on. So what's the takeaway before we open for Q&A is, let's make a commitment, if we haven't already, that every masjid is our masjid, and every organization is also my organization. So the next time, for next Jummah, someone comes in, we're going to support them. We're going to donate. We're going to volunteer. And last but not least, forgive me for going off on this rant, is that please, I understand donating is amazing. Yes, mashallah, that's amazing. But please sacrifice some of your time and try to volunteer as well. Volunteer with the intention of getting access to what's going on the ground. Volunteer with that intention of seeing how big the problem is. With that intention, donate, but then also volunteer. Because what we don't want, and forgive me if this comes off as abrasive, what have you, what we don't want is, just to shake, like, okay, I did my part, here's $200, here's $500, or here's 50, but whatever it is, within our capacity, as if like a big check mark, like we're done. No, it's not enough. Donating money is not enough. Get involved, support, inshallah ta'ala. The floor is open for Q&A, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair. So I have a mic, inshallah. Just raise your hand, we'll come over to you, inshallah. Those that are watching at home, you can just put it in the chat box here. MashaAllah. I have a question. So mashallah, there was a comment online that this Imam is doing the work of 100 men. MashaAllah. So may Allah bless you.
May Allah make that a reality, inshallah. Yeah.
So in my limited community work, I've come to a general rule, a precept, that faith without community work or activism is deficient, and then community work or activism without faith is dangerous. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Why?
Yes. So with that statement, what I would even say, and again, forgive me, you know me by now. Come on, I've been talking for over an hour, 2 hours actually. So let's move on from the disclaimers. We don't need politicians that happen to be Muslim. We need Muslims that are politicians. Big difference. I'm not knocking nobody. No, please. That's not who I am. That's not how I roll. No. It has to be done for the right reasons. It has to be done right and the right reasons. Believe it or not, okay, and this may sound strange. I show up at the state capitol like this. And this is the weird part. I've shown up at the state capitol with fake Crocs countless times. At least legit Crocs are like, okay, you know what? Okay. Like, the Walmart sharks, like the shark ones, like $8.99, the green ones. I should this is I'm not encouraging that. All I'm saying is that this is who I am. Does that make sense? This is who I am. I don't shake hands with women at the state capitol. This is who I am. And here's the ajib thing. Based on experience, when I stood my ground that, hey, this is what Allah wants from me and this is not going to happen, you'll be surprised how much respect people have for that. People respect that more than being weirded out. So Yes, thank you, Brother Munir, for that. Like it has to be done the right way and for the right reasons. Yes, sister. Yes. Yeah. Allah Akbar.
I wish she had some Maulana or coming visiting her in the last days. Thanks. So, but there wasn't any service like that, and I was wondering if I want to apply. Now that I saw that, I wanted to apply for that, but I don't know where to go, how to approach for that. So, is there any website where we can see how to find that?
So, sister asked a question that, may Allah forgive the sister's mother. She passed away. Allah yarhamha. Allahumma sakinha fil jannah. We're very sorry for your loss, sister. So, sister asked a question that I went through that process myself of witnessing my mother in her last stages of cancer in the hospital, and we wish we had someone like a sheikh or someone as a chaplain to come and visit us. So, the question is, what is some resource? What is some resource that I have that I can apply myself to become a chaplain? So the simple answer, again, this may come as a shocker. My experience between 2 county jails, hospital, and other places, including the juvie hall, has been absolutely amazing. I found that when I was proactive enough, alhamdulillah, and I reached out, they were so happy to receive me, and they went the extra mile and provided me with all the training and all the resources, the live scans and the badges and everything, because they appreciated that. So all you need to do is, relative to which institution it is, the county jail, your local hospital, whether it's county or private, whatever it is, reach out to, chances are there's a chaplain, right, on paid staff at each of these institutions. Just send an email, leave a voicemail that, hey, my name is so and so, and I would wish to volunteer as a chaplain at this institution of yours that you're a part of. You'll be surprised on the type of response you get back. Yeah, yeah. Hmm. So the thing is that when there's a will, there's a way. So in other words, the I'm not aware of. I'm not aware of. I believe we're at this point, we're at this phase right now that we as individuals have to approach our institutions at an individual level. My vision and dream is, why not have an organization that is provide like my dream and vision is to have paid staff on behalf of an organization that are getting paid by the organization and are volunteering at the local hospitals and jails as full-time chaplains for free. So they're providing services for free, but their payroll is coming from that organization. This is a model that I saw in South Africa, by the way. Next question. Bismillah.
Jazakallah khairan for all the good work and letting people know like what different opportunities are there. I think you mentioned that if MCC takes this role, especially women, is there safety and security measures available at the county jails where they can go and work as chaplains? So probably if MCC, sign up people and then we can do that. I mean, that's a wonderful job.
So based on my experience, again, what I've seen across like all orientations at county jails and juvie halls and hospitals, etc., is safety is their number one priority. It's part of their training. They want you to be safe. They want like safety is like everyone's number one priority. So yes, of course, inshallah ta'ala, needless to say, they will be the ones that will share that, okay, this is the workaround regarding this. Communication, inshallah ta'ala. Inshallah ta'ala. MashaAllah. 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 May Allah reward all of the amazing volunteers and everyone involved to create such a space, as a sister mentioned. This space of exchange of, information and experience is priceless, MashaAllah. Yeah. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Amazing. Yes.
Brothers? Oh, good. Come over to your sister. Oh, there you go.
Are there any specific requirements to become a chaplain?
Again, I'm speaking from my experience. To become a volunteer chaplain, they simply want to know, are you a good representation of your faith? They don't require a degree. They don't require, any specific prerequisites. A simple endorsement from a sheikh or an imam or from an institution would suffice. Again, you'll be surprised how easy it is. Now, again, once I was a student, when they found out that, I'm a student of Deen, they're like, oh, okay, come on in. That's my experience, you know what I mean? And alhamdulillah, I could speak different languages, so, for them, it was like, oh, you speak this language too? Wow, subhanAllah, and minallah, so, yeah, mashallah, mashallah. I think one of the key takeaways is that, mashallah, we as Muslims have many opportunities to serve beyond what you and I normally think how we can serve. And how receptive each of these institutions are for you to have representation. Because what happens, one more second, sister, is that what I found, of course, later on, is one of the reasons why both county jails were over the moon about this guy showing up, because I was helping them in bringing down grievances that inmates had. You guys are with me? Because everyone else had their, religious leader or representation coming in, but the Muslim one was missing. And the inmates were constantly sending in grievances, and they were being escalated all the way to the top. So by us showing up, we are, in other words, doing them a favor. You know what I mean? We, alhamdulillah, have leverage. We have leverage, and we're able to, mashallah, make it happen, inshallah. Yes, sister.
Who you are, where you work, to reach you sometime. What is the best, do you have a website, or do you represent some place, except the Sacramento chaplain?
I work at Al-Misbah.
And your full name is
Mohammad Yasir Khan. Yeah. I work at Al-Misbah. If you want to get a hold of me, just I guess.
Just to volunteer or just get started?
Yeah, inshallah ta'ala. I'm more than happy to be a resource to,
Mostly the problem is to reach the resource and to navigate the way to reach.
Yes. Inshallah ta'ala. Yeah, of course. MashaAllah.
Thank you.
Brother Munir has my number, he has my email.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, get a hold of me. I'll share it.
There you go.
That's okay.
MashaAllah.
You have a question, sister? Okay. We have a question from an online viewer.
Yes,
it's kind of a long question, so I'm going to try to summarize it. They're asking about Imam Waradin Muhammad,
Yes.
the WD Muhammad, and how he was able in the 1990s to encourage Muslims to participate in civic engagement. And now out of that, the fruits have been judges, mayors, prison chaplains, all serving the Muslims in a public fashion for the sake of Allah. So can we use that as a model, is pretty much the question.
100%.
Yes, it was the founder. It was the breakup of the Nation of Islam, Imam Waradin Muhammad, WD Muhammad, who inherited it from his father and then kind of disbanded the Nation of Islam and made it more orthodox.
Exactly. Yes, of course. So remember, we as Muslims, our priority is Quran and Sunnah. As long as we recognize that our parameters are the Quran and Sunnah, we're doing it for the pleasure of Allah, then the sky's the limit. And I appreciate that point so much, because I went off on a little tangent earlier, or post Isha, about from my perspective, like what's going on generationally speaking in the US, right? From like the immigrant Muslim perspective, that the first generation is usually trying to find their footing. For some reason, like that pinhole perspective of the survival mode is getting like handed down to subsequent generations, which is, I believe, one of the reasons why we're still stuck, looking at the world through that keyhole perspective, because that's what happens when you're in survival mode, right? You only focus on what really matters, and everything else doesn't matter. So what I'm inviting all of us as Muslims, that alhamdulillah, all of us are settled, mashallah, right? We don't have to worry about our electricity getting cut off. We don't have to worry about any of these things. Allah has blessed us, mashallah, right? So let's broaden our perspective, and let's look around and be proactive. And let's look for ways that we have before us of how they were successful. Again, within the Quran and Sunnah, based on Tawheed and Khatm Nabuwah and the finality of the prophethood of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and everything in between. So yes, we have to understand that Islam is universal. Wherever Islam goes, as long as Islam is practiced, based on the Quran and Sunnah, there's no need to change anything. It's just a matter of just making it, just the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit, subhanAllah. Any other questions?
I think we're here. May Allah bless you. Thank you so much.
All of us, inshallah.
May Allah
Jazakumullah
bless you.
khair.
Would you end us with a dua?
Yes, inshallah ta'ala. Inshallah ta'ala. For this, I'll sit down, inshallah. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا مولانا محمد وبارك وسلم. والله اللهم اهدنا واهد بنا واجعلنا سببا لمن اهتدى. Oh Allah, guide through us, and make us a means of guiding others, O Allah. O Allah, bless us with the worry and concern of the Ummah. O Allah, allow us to look for ways to serve that are normally looked over, O Allah. O Allah, allow us to pay attention to inmates in our local county jails. Allow us to think about our brothers and sisters that are in our local hospitals. O Allah, allow us to think about the youth that got in trouble and they're in the local juvie system. O Allah, allow us to look after domestic violence victims. O Allah, allow us to look after kids in foster care, Muslim kids in foster care. O Allah, bless us with ways to serve the community in creative ways that are always earning your pleasure, O Allah. O Allah, bless us with the necessary sincerity to do what needs to happen. O Allah, bless us all with all of the blessings that Rasulullah ﷺ asked of this world and hereafter. O Allah, protect us from all of the evil that Rasulullah ﷺ seek protection from of this world and hereafter. O Allah, use us for good. O Allah, never use us for evil. O Allah, use us only for what is good. Use us to unify, never divide. O Allah, use us to spread love and never hatred. O Allah, use us only for what is good and never use us for any type of evil, O Allah. O Allah, bless us with the prophetic akhlaq and prophetic character of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. O Allah, allow us to treat our elders with more respect, adab and reverence, and allow us to show more mercy, kindness, and forbearance towards our youngsters. O Allah, bless us with the prophetic character and akhlaq of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. O Allah, accept our du'as. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala khayri khalqih Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin.